I used to think that silence was the absence of noise. That's what they teach you, isn't it? That quiet is just nothing. But anyone who has lived in an old house, truly lived in one alone, knows that's a lie. Silence has a weight. It has a texture. And sometimes, if you listen hard enough, it has an intention. I grew up in a suburb in Pennsylvania that was the definition of mundane. It was a place where neighbors measured their worth by the greenness of their lawns, and the only crime was the occasional mailbox vandalism. I left when I was 19, desperate for noise, for the city, for anything other than the suffocating safety of that town. So, when I came back 5 years later to stay with my mom for the summer, I thought the hardest part would be the boredom. I thought the biggest struggle would be adjusting to the slow molasses drip of suburban time. I was wrong. My mother had changed. She was in her late 60s, but in the dim light of the hallway she looked older, frailer. There was a jittery energy to her that hadn't been there before. She checked the deadbolt 3 times before bed. She kept the curtains drawn tight, even on sunny days. The first night, over a dinner of pot roast that tasted like sawdust, she told me about the visitor. "It's a man," she whispered, staring at her fork. "Or, I think it's a man. He knocks late, always late." I chewed slowly, trying to hide my skepticism. "Have you seen him?" "No," she said, her voice trembling. "I look through the peephole, but it's just dark. But I know he's there. I can feel him standing on the other side of the wood." I did what any dutiful, rational son would do. I laughed it off. I told her it was the wind. I told her it was the piping expanding as the house cooled down at night. I told her that isolation plays tricks on the mind. I patronized her fear because I didn't want to deal with it. "Old houses breathe, Mom," I said, patting her hand. "They settle. It's nothing." I've replayed that moment in my head 1,000 times. The way her eyes pleaded with me to believe her. The way I dismissed it. If I could go back, I wouldn't have patted her hand. I would have packed our bags and driven until the gas tank ran dry. The first time I heard it, I was awake, scrolling through my phone in the kitchen. The digital clock on the microwave read 2:33 a.m. The house was dead silent, that heavy, oppressive silence I mentioned earlier. Then, it happened. Thud. It wasn't a knuckle rapping on wood. It sounded softer, like the palm of a hand or a fist wrapped in cloth pressed slowly against the front door. I froze. The light from my phone screen cast long, weird shadows across the linoleum. Thud. Deliberate. Heavy. Thud. 3 knocks. Perfectly spaced. I didn't move for a long time. My rational brain was firing off explanations. Delivery driver at the wrong house? Drunk teenager? But at 3:30 a.m.? I walked to the hallway. The floorboards groaned under my feet, sounding like gunshots in the quiet house. I reached the front door and pressed my eye to the peephole. The glass was cold against my skin. I expected to see a distorted face. I expected a monster. But there was nothing. Just the amber glow of the street lamp buzzing at the end of the driveway. The porch was empty. I unlocked the door, against every horror movie instinct I had, and swung it open. The night air was humid, thick with the smell of wet grass. I looked left. I looked right. Nothing. Then I looked down. Sitting perfectly still on the welcome mat was a cat. A stray, maybe. It was black with matted fur, and it was staring directly at the door. Not at me, at the wood of the door frame. It didn't run when I opened the door. It just sat there, transfixed, as if it were watching something I couldn't see. "Shh," I hissed. It didn't blink. I slammed the door and locked it. I told myself it was the cat. The cat had bumped against the door. That was it. But deep down, I knew a 10-pound cat couldn't make a sound that heavy. It became a ritual. Every night, between 2 and 2:33 a.m., the knocking would come. Thud, thud, thud. Sometimes I would stand on the other side of the door, holding a baseball bat, waiting for it. I'd rip the door open the second the third knock finished. Always empty. I installed a Ring doorbell camera. I thought, this is it. I'll catch the kids messing with us. The next morning I checked the footage. The camera recorded the wind moving the bushes. It recorded a possum scuttling across the porch. But at 2:33 a.m., the footage just skipped. A glitch. A blur of pixels for 10 seconds, and then back to normal. My mom stopped sleeping. She started pacing the living room, wringing her hands. "He wants in," she'd whisper. "He's testing the locks." "Nobody is there, Mom," I said, though my own voice was starting to crack. "It's just the plumbing." But the plumbing doesn't knock 3 times. A week later, the pattern broke. It was 9 a.m., Tuesday. The sun was streaming through the kitchen window, making everything feel safe, sanitized. I was making coffee when I heard it. Thud, thud, thud. It sounded different in the daylight, less ominous, more demanding. I walked to the door, annoyed more than afraid. I swung it open, ready to yell at a solicitor. The man standing there was small. That's the first thing I noticed. He couldn't have been taller than 5'4". He was wearing clothes that looked 2 sizes too big, a gray wool coat that smelled like mothballs and damp earth, and a faded blue cap pulled low. But his face. He looked to be about 60, his skin the texture of crumpled parchment paper. But his mouth, he was smiling. Not a polite, neighborly smile. It was a wide, toothy rictus that stretched the skin of his cheeks so tight it looked painful. His eyes didn't match the smile. His eyes were dead, flat, like a shark's eyes. He held a small cardboard box in his hands. It was taped shut with masking tape that looked yellow with age. "Can I help you?" I asked. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. The smile didn't waver by a millimeter. He just extended his arms, shoving the box toward my chest. I instinctively took it. It was light. "Is this for us?" I asked, looking for a label. There was a piece of paper taped to the top. In shaky, erratic handwriting, like someone writing with their non-dominant hand, it said my mother's name, Martha. "Who is this from?" I asked, looking up. The man was already turning away. He moved with a strange, jerky gait, like a marionette being pulled by inexperienced strings. "Hey!" I called out. "Wait!" He stopped. He didn't turn his body, just his head. That neck, it twisted too far. He looked back at me, that frozen smile still plastered on his face. He gave a single sharp nod and then walked down the driveway. I watched him until he turned the corner. I felt a cold sweat prickling on the back of my neck despite the morning sun. I took the box inside. "Mom?" I called. She came out of the living room, looking haggard. When she saw the box, she stopped dead, her face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" "A man, outside, just now." She backed away, her hands coming up to cover her mouth. "Don't open it. Please, don't open it." "Mom, it's just a package. Maybe it's Dad's old stuff? A neighbor?" "No," she whimpered. "Put it away. Put it outside." I didn't put it outside. I put it on the kitchen table. I didn't open it, out of respect for her fear, but I left it there. It sat there all day, a small brown cube that seemed to absorb the light around it. That evening, I went out to grab fast food. The atmosphere in the house was too suffocating. I needed to drive, to listen to the radio, to pretend the world was normal. When I came back, the rain had started. A cold, miserable drizzle. As I pulled into the driveway, my headlights swept across the porch. He was there. The same man. The same gray coat. He was standing directly in front of the door, facing the wood, his forehead resting against it. He was knocking. Thud. 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 Slow. Methodical. He wasn't knocking to get attention. He was knocking like he was performing a surgery. I slammed the car door shut. "Hey!" I shouted, the anger finally overriding the fear. "Get away from the door!" He turned slowly. The rain was plastering the gray coat to his frail body. The water ran down his face, but he didn't blink. The smile was still there. If anything, it was wider now. It revealed too many teeth. "I think you gave us a package earlier," I said, my voice shaking slightly as I walked up the path. "Did you need something? Money?" He looked at me. Then, for the first time, he spoke. His voice didn't match his body. It was deep, gravelly, and sounded wet, like his throat was full of fluid. "I need it back." I stopped a few feet away from him. The smell coming off him was intense, copper and spoiled milk. "The box?" I asked. "I made a mistake. The box. I need it back." I hesitated. I wanted him gone. I wanted him off my property. "Stay here," I said. "I'll get it. Then you leave, or I'm calling the police." He nodded. The movement made a wet clicking sound in his neck. I unlocked the door and slipped inside. The house was dark. "Mom?" I whispered. No answer. She must have been hiding in her room. I grabbed the box from the kitchen table. It felt heavier now. I paused. I swear it was light this morning. Now it felt like a brick was inside. I shook it gently. No sound. It felt dense, solid. I didn't want to know. I just wanted him gone. I went back outside. The man was exactly where I left him. He hadn't moved an inch. I held the box out. "Here, take it, and don't come back." His hand shot out, too fast for an old man, and snatched the box. His fingers brushed mine. They were ice cold, not cool, dead cold. "Thank you," he said. He turned and walked into the rain. He didn't walk toward the sidewalk this time. He walked around the side of the house, toward the backyard. "Hey!" I yelled. "The street is that way!" He didn't stop. He disappeared into the shadows of the side yard. I ran inside and locked the door. I bolted the back door. I checked every window. I went to my mom's room to tell her he was gone. "Mom?" The room was empty. The bed was made. "Mom!" I searched the house, the bathroom, the basement, the attic. She was gone. Her car was in the driveway. Her purse was on the counter. Her shoes were by the door. I called the police. They told me to wait. They said elderly people wander off. They said she probably went to a neighbor's. They said to file a report in 24 hours. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with a kitchen knife, staring at the door. The knocking didn't happen that night. The silence was worse. The silence was screaming at me. The next day passed in a blur of panic. I called hospitals. I called her friends. Nothing. It was like she had evaporated. By the second morning, I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. Every shadow looked like the man in the gray coat. Every sound was a knock. I decided to go to the police station in person. I grabbed my keys and opened the front door. He was standing there. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it would crack them. The man in the gray coat. The smile was gone now. His face was slack, expressionless, hanging loosely on his skull. He was holding the box. He held it out to me. There was a new note taped to it. For you. I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lift them. I didn't want to take it. I knew with a sick, biological certainty that I shouldn't take it. But he just stood there, offering it. I took the box. As soon as the weight transferred to my hands, the man collapsed. He didn't fall like a person faints. He fell like a pile of clothes. He crumpled to the porch floor. I gasped and stepped back. I looked down at him. There was no body in the coat. It was just empty clothes. The gray coat, the hat, the pants, a pile of wet, mothball-scented fabric on my porch. No skin, no bones. Just empty clothes arranged to look like a man. I kicked the door shut and locked it. I dropped the box on the floor. It smelled. God, it smelled. A sweet, metallic rot. It permeated the room instantly. I grabbed a pair of scissors. I sat on the floor, staring at the box. The handwriting on the note, for you. It looked like my handwriting. I sliced the tape. Inside, there was no packing peanuts, no bubble wrap. It was wet. The box was packed tight with meat. Red, visceral, raw meat. It was arranged neatly like a disturbed puzzle. Coils of intestine, slabs of muscle. I gagged, scrambling backward, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. But I had to know. I reached in with the scissors, pushing aside the wet, slick mass. Buried at the bottom, wrapped in a piece of paper, was something hard. I pulled the paper out first. It was soggy, stained pink. I unfolded it. It read, "Don't trust the man at the door." It was written in my mother's handwriting, but it was scribbled, frantic. I looked back into the box. I moved the meat aside. It wasn't a head. That would have been too simple. It was her face. Just her face. Carefully removed. The skin of her face. With the eyes still attached, staring up from the bottom of the cardboard box. Her mouth was sewn shut with black thread. I screamed. I screamed until my throat bled. That night, the police took the box. They took the clothes from the porch. They searched the neighborhood. They found nothing. No fingerprints on the box except mine and my mother's. No DNA on the clothes. They think I did it. I know they do. They just can't prove it. I moved out the next day. I left everything. I drove 3 states away and checked into a motel. But last night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up. The motel room was dark, and from the other side of the heavy steel door, thud, thud, thud. I'm not answering it. I'm never answering a door again. But under the crack of the door, I can see shadows moving. And sometimes, just sometimes, I hear a voice. A wet, gravelly voice. I need the package back.